Like 1.5. Everybody subsequent to the Isle of Wight festival, everybody, 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 everybody.
Scott, put your uke back in there. Let's see what I can put behind.
I gotta get like a fucking guitar stand.
Put your
Put it in
uke
the
back
corner.
behind. I gotta get like a music thing.
Yo, it fell over the back during the middle of the last thing. It was during the review. It just
Did it
fell.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either. Is this still back there?
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Oh, you gotta get it back.
Oh,
Wait, what can I
Yeah,
do?
Vic, you got a cool background though.
copy.
I'll put my guitar in the background.
If we're
One of my
if
guitars.
we're full stop on the cap,
Full stop on the cap. Oh my
we're
Period.
all
God.
break.
I could put.
God sentence right there. Here's an
Next to the guitar, it's nuts.
He's posted next to it too. That's crazy.
My son OD.
Oh, Bob?
Oh,
Blonde on
Who?
blonde?
Bobby on the sim.
yo, on Josh Simp right there. I
On Simp.
swear.
Okay.
Okay.
ASAP
So,
no Rocky.
We're ready.
Can you guys hear my AC when I talk?
No.
Keep talking. Keep talking. We can keep testing.
All right.
Oh,
so,
shit.
Carlos is gonna be our host. We got the record on deck.
Wreck Kid.
Wreck kid.
The Wreck Kid.
All right. So.
We're ready to deem.
Are we ready?
Yeah, I think I've been ready.
All right. So today we are reviewing Debut by Bjork. I think it's a little silly to call this album Debut because she's been in the music industry since she was 11. She signed a record deal in Iceland when she was 11 and put out her first album. That was mainly covers of like popular songs throughout the world. And then she also has some work with a jazz band, which is just a bass. She has some people playing bass, piano, and drums, and then it's just her voice. And she was also in a band called the Sugar Cubes, which was this like avant-garde pop electronic rock type of band, and all those kind of amalgamated and influenced her on this album Debut. So let's do initial thoughts first. What do we think off the first thoughts?
So my initial thoughts of this album were that it was just super catchy. I was loving every song. There were definitely songs that grew on me, but I pretty much liked every song the first listen. I loved the upbeat Prince-like melodies, and I thought her voice was just amazing, like shimmering radiance. Certain tracks, that was definitely the biggest highlight, was her voice, the first listen at least. But yeah, I was loving the upbeat house hits. They were all great.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, obviously, the shining star of this album is definitely her voice. It's so unique and so recognizable. But it definitely was a very upbeat and catchy album. Like he said, it was really, really good synth pop music. I did enjoy it off the first listen.
For my first listen, I wasn't totally sold. It took me a little while to get used to her voice. I mean, you guys seem to love it instantly, but it's a little unusual. I think we can agree it's not really orthodox. And it took me a little bit to get used to her voice and her, her melodies and her singing. So the first listen I liked a lot of the songs, but it wasn't totally sold after the first time through.
So how many listens would you say it took for you to get used to, or if maybe you're not used to it still, what do you think?
I think it took a few listens. I mean, every time I listened to it, I got it more and I liked it more and I got more used to it. There's still a few songs where I think her melodies don't really fit the music that, she wrote. But I think it's grown on me a lot more since the first time through.
Scott, what you were sold with their voice off the first listen, or did it take some time to grow on you?
I mean, it was a little different. Obviously, it's like almost like a growl in there sometimes from different songs, but I thought it was just so cool that it kind of sold me on it when I first heard it, if that makes sense. I was just captured by the way she used her voice.
We forgot to mention this. We should have said this before we started, but usually when we do these albums, they're like ones we haven't listened to and maybe don't know a lot about it at first. But this is, since we did one full ring of albums that we did like that, like we didn't know very well and we told everyone to, this is classic or like a favorite review. So this is one of Carlos's, not necessarily one of his top 5 or something, but it's like one of his favorites. And So yeah, so it's not meant to be like, it's not like gonna be up in the air whether it's good or not. It's pretty much gonna be like a classic. But yeah.
Should we do my initial thoughts? I don't.
You don't really have any initial thoughts.
Yeah.
No, but like,
Album's
you
so long.
like, what was this the first one you listened to by her?
So I had heard a couple of different songs from Bjork from my family members, my brother specifically, but nothing from debut. I think I've heard something from like Posts and some stuff from Volnacura. So this was when I listened to debut, it was completely new stuff. And yeah, I was, even when my relatives played, I wasn't sold on her voice yet. But I think over time, each listen it grows on you, and I had that experience even with this album too. Originally, I chose Post for you guys, but I felt like we should start at her very first, I guess, canon, if you want to call it, album in her
discography. So
go ahead and pick Debut because I think it's her most accessible. What do you guys think? Do you think it's very accessible in terms of production?
I thought it was super accessible. I thought it was gonna be super experimental. You see all the album covers of like her most recent album. It's like, damn, she's like gonna do some crazy electronic avant-garde stuff. But then, and so I was like a little bit worried that I wouldn't like it going into debut, but I just thought it was like super solid, not formulaic, but like a lot of great electronic ideas, very concise, and just every song was just a hit. What was the question?
Line.
The accessibility.
Oh yeah, it was super. Yeah, I already answered that. Yeah, super accessible.
All right, what do you think?
You go, Chad.
I found it easy to get into. I feel like the most challenging part that I could see for people would just be getting acclimated with her voice. Really. Other than that, I mean, all the songwriting pretty easy to get behind.
Yeah, I agree. I think she does a good job of with like variety in the types of songs that are in the album. There's some like more house oriented songs and some like jazz and some slower ballads, which I think does a good job of mixing it up instead of just the same type of song over and over and over and over.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think this is her most accessible album, but it doesn't really suffer in her choosing that she wants to make some poppy tracks. I think she really does well, and she does pop very good on this. Now let's talk about the flow of this album. Is there anything that you felt stood out like a sore thumb or fit like a glove, or like, all right, these 3 songs together were like perfect 3 in a row? What do you think?
For me, I think while it wasn't like an experimental electronic record, there was a lot of different ideas, like from jazz, ambient, electronic, house, pop. There's a lot of things going on in this album. Meets the eye. But I think for me, at least, this might not be flow. I think it comes down to flow is. At certain tracks, like in Aeroplane, I did end up liking that track, but I didn't think the saxophone mix and the more jazzy melody ideas kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. I still liked the ideas, but in terms of flow, I think the jazzy ideas kind of stuck out in that they weren't lush and like they seemed like they were meant to stick out. They didn't seem like they were supposed to fit, like wasn't like a mesh of like jazz and electronic music to me, like a perfect brew of those two types of sounds. It was more like, we're and they were great melodies too, like on Aeroplane and Anchor Song and things like that, but I think those stuck out and sort of abrupt blocked the flow. Yeah, but that's the only problems in terms of flow.
Okay, so I think you were caught off guard. Are you still caught off guard by those jazzy inputs? Or
I don't think they're caught off guard because I just don't. I mean, I was caught off guard when I first heard them, but like I just don't think that they totally they stick out like a sore thumb. Like they don't totally make sense, but they're still good and they still make sense in the terms of the whole song. But in terms of from song to song, they don't flow perfectly a lot out. It doesn't take a lot out of the value of the album.
Yeah, I would agree with the Anchor Song one that it kind of does stick out a little bit, but it ended up being one of my favorite songs on the album, but it was a little bit off from the rest of them. I mean, like it opens really strong and upbeat, and I think like Anchor Song was a little bit more like down tempo, and that it did end up being one of my favorites, but it did stick out a little bit to me, and maybe that's why it was my favorite. I don't know, but
I guess I have to agree that Anchor Song was different than the rest of the songs.
And Aeroplane too.
Aeroplane. Anchor Song was not my favorite song. But I mean, I don't worry too much about like the flow of an album. I just worry about like the songs that themselves when I listen to music like this. But I think she did a good job of kind of breaking up, like the genres. Like the first two songs are a little more upbeat, and then Venus as a Boy is slower, and then it kind of goes back and forth. So it's not like 5 pop songs and then 5 like slow ballads. It's it's back and forth.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think she was this album shows a lot of ambition in her different genre choices. I don't think she wanted to stick to necessarily one type of genre, whether it be pop, jazz, whatever influence. And I think it was a good setup for her later discography to maybe branch out in different ideas.
Yeah, we're like
So,
all right,
go ahead.
just like another point off of that, like the transitions like from idea makes my point like almost invalid because they were just done so perfectly. Like from idea to idea, they were just like complete polar opposite of our boy John Frusciante. Just like perfect transitions. Like every song, there was in the song, the transitions were not bad. It was just the flow from song to song where this sound stuck out.
Any cuts? Do we have any cuts off of this album? Any songs that you felt shouldn't have made the cut of the final?
I'm trying to think. I didn't
think-
really find any that took away from the album at all. You know what I mean? I think they all really fit what I think she was going for in this album. So I wouldn't have cut any personally.
I wouldn't cut any. I loved all the songs, but Come to Me, I think, sort of felt like a rehashing of songs like Violently Happy or Human Behavior or like The Relationship, like Connection, Unhealthy or Healthy. I think it was just a little bit redundant. So if I had to cut anything, I loved the synth passages on that song, and I wouldn't cut it. But I think in a lot of ways that's the worst song in that it feels like there's less stakes in the sort of storytelling she goes with about the relationship songs, which are basically all of them, but some of them that stick out.
I wouldn't cut any songs. I guess if I had to cut one song, it might be Violently Happy. That one just didn't really speak to me. But I think all the songs are good. I mean, there's no it feels like this album is she made it so it's very open-ended. She doesn't have to stick to a certain narrative or story or whatever. She can just kind of put whatever song she wants in. So it's hard for me to find one that doesn't really fit. So I don't think I would cut any, but if I absolutely had to, I just didn't really love Violently Happy, so that one would probably go.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think.
Sad that you said that.
I think Violently Happy is so. My problem with the latter half is some of the tracks are just really, really long. Maybe if they cut out a verse or another chorus, I think it would have been better instead of having 5-minute tracks. Maybe try 3-minute tracks. Yeah, the ideas get very repetitive, especially when you're 4 minutes in and there hasn't been really a switch up in production. And her voice isn't really doing much to carry the production either.
That's fair.
Yeah, the second half was a little less. I don't know. The first half I liked a lot more than the second. I mean, I liked the whole album, but this first half had more songs that got stuck in my head than the second half.
I agree. I like the first half definitely better than the second half. Is my video still laggy?
It's a little
A little bit
slow. It's a little like
it's fine.
I don't know.
though.
It's like doing
not that
fine. It's a
bad.
little bit, but
It's a little bit slow.
My God, he's gone. Oh shit.
yeah, we gotta stop talking shit.
We should maybe talk about some of our favorite parts of the albums, whether it be the production, her voice, her inflection, her legato. What's some of your favorite parts, Evan?
My favorite parts. I think the song that all the parts come together the best is Venus as a Boy. I think her vocal melody works the best with the atmosphere she's created, with all the instruments. I think that was probably my favorite song on the track. I like Human Behavior a lot as well. I think the symphony was cool. I kind of like her method for writing the songs. It's very kind of formulaic. She kind of picks drums and picks like a bass or whatever, like rhythmic element, and sticks with that for most of the song. And sometimes that comes together really well, in my opinion, and sometimes it kind of misses. So songs like Human Behavior, Venus as a Boy, Big Time Sensuality, I think did that really well. And some other songs maybe didn't.
For one, I forget which song was that, where it goes baby, when she goes like that, like ba.
Oh, that was on the second half, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's
Might be Come to Me.
Violently Happy or Come to Me. I don't remember.
I think it's Finally Happy.
But that one was so.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that part. That was so funny, and it seemed like kind of dumb and kind of a dated way to repeat a vocal. But I don't know. It was fun. I haven't heard it that much. But otherwise, I loved Crying. I loved the way it switched from slower paced, sort of stripped back instrumental to more ambient. I thought that was definitely one of the best songs here. Also, it had, sometimes I feel like the lyrics are a little vague, and always when you listen to an artist that's from another country and from a different culture and translating how she speaks to English and into a song sometimes it can sound weird. Like if you listen to a Daft Punk song, sometimes the way they write songs seems a little static or whatever, turning it into English. But I think for the most part, her very simple ideas translate well into English and into like a house. But yeah, Crying, I love that Baby. Anchor song was just like awesome. Like that is one of my favorite songs I've heard in a while. Great storytelling. I think it doesn't matter the language or whatever I was talking about before, because the storytelling in that song is amazing. And I love how slow paced it is compared to the rest of the album.
Yeah, I have to agree with the Anchor song point. That one's really good. And then the other one for me would be Big Time Sensuality. I really like that like organ synth that she had in there in the beginning. I think that struck a tone with me, and it carried me through the entire song, and I really like that one.
There's one more spot that I forgot about. In Venus as a Boy, before like the chorus, she does this like kind of like this line where it's hard to understand what she's saying. I looked up the lyrics, and apparently it's just gibberish, and she did that on purpose. She just like said it's just fun to sing gibberish, so that's what she did on the track. I thought that was pretty cool. It sounds good too. It's just like vocalizing, not like nonsense, violently happy. That one just didn't really speak to me.
That would probably be number 3 for me. That song for sure. Number 3, top 3.
Her delivery on that song, Venus is a Boy, was just crazy. Like, it was so beautiful. Yeah. Cause, what about you?
Yeah, it's just really, I've just never heard anything like it before. And
her style is
really,
totally
really
unique.
cool.
I'm super curious at what her melody writing process is, because I don't know, there's something about this album that whenever you listen to it, it always feels like she's delivering it to the best she can, and it feels almost organic, like on the spot. It doesn't feel pre-written, and I think that's part of the reason why I like it. Some of the melodies are just delivered so well, and her voice floats over the production so well. In songs like Venus as a Boy, which is still one of my favorite Bjork songs ever, along with the Anchor song, where it's really just her and this saxophones. I think it's just like a couple of saxophones. They just go back at it, and it's just done beautifully. I think Human Behavior is a really good starter album too. I really enjoy the timpani loop there. The snares are good on that song as well.
For me, like, you guys really like Human Behavior, but I don't know. I didn't dislike it, but I thought that was honestly one of the weaker songs. I think it was a weak intro. I think it makes sense as to like what she's doing, sort of exploring maybe unorthodox parts of human behavior or whatever. But I don't think she totally delivers on like crazy human behavior, which maybe she does on her later albums, which is maybe a disappointment in terms of how I feel about it. But also, I just think the songwriting just doesn't click. Repeating definitely no logic. Like, I don't know. The melody was sort of sticky and didn't flow. It wasn't as organic as the other songs. And I just think the phrasing wasn't great. Like, I don't know. Like, the way the words lined up, and I wasn't a huge fan. I thought the phrasing and the writing on that song was definitely probably the weakest out of the whole album on Human Behavior.
Okay. Now, let's talk about There's More to Life Than This, the live version. What do we think about having a live version in? And was it really a live version, Victor?
Well, I think it was a live version in that maybe it wasn't a studio recorded like sound room and everything. But I don't think I think I read it on somewhere that it was in like a bathroom stall or something. So it was like live, but it was just live because it wasn't in a studio. But I think that was like a super Princey song. I don't know if you know that is like my favorite artist, but it was like a super fun, upbeat, great background vocals. They were like R&B. I loved it. It was super,
I love that.
It was the simplest song, but it was the most fun. And I love when she like goes through the other room or whatever, and then I can just imagine her now that I know it's in the toilet, like her like slithering out of the stall or something like that. And, like, I don't know, and she just get this really like sort of like goofy like vocal delivery when she goes in, or the middle part where she like gets close to the mic and stuff. I love that part.
Yeah, when I didn't even like when I listened to the album the first time, I just don't even look at like the track list as it's going. So I didn't even really realize that it was a live version until I looked at it later, and I was like, oh, okay, that's how the vocals got kind of wacky. But I thought it was cool. I thought it was a great like inclusion in the album. I had no problems with it.
Yeah, and especially
I also you go.
Especially on
especially on electronic album. I think that
she did a great job telling like a visual story on that song. Like, when you can hear the background voices when she's at the club, right? And then like as if there's actual people there, and then she goes into the other room and it's the the music gets drowned out by the walls and stuff, and then she goes back. I thought that was a really cool effect that really puts you like with her at the party. I really like.
Yeah,
With her on the shitter.
I think it was clear when I first heard.
Oh,
I
that's
think the audio mixing was just too well for it to be a live recording. Her voice just comes out so well, and it's not like usually in a live recording they like hold their mic and bring it down and then hold it at different angles. I think it was mixed well along with the background vocals. But I really love the start. Yeah, like that. But I really like the driving bass line that comes in the beginning. That's probably my favorite part of the song, along with the background vocals. Those were excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah, they could have made it on like a Prince album.
Stop, fix the uke while we're in between shots.
You could say it.
Oh no, my saber.
Oh no, it's all coming apart.
Vic, you better edit this out, bro. I had a
So how did
question,
the
but I
different
forgot it
styles
before I read
of
it.
I have a
instrumentals?
question.
Yeah, 7.
No, I'm just mocking Scott.
No, I had a question. I forgot it before I wrote it.
How did the difference? So there was a lot of variety. I think we can all agree there was a lot of variety in the production and the instrumentation. How did her voice fit with all of the different production styles and instrumentation?
I'll go first. I have some opinions. I think her voice fit well most of the time. There's a few spots that I think it's short. I mean, I guess I'll go with the good parts first. I really think it worked well in Venus as a Boy. That was like the best one. I think it really worked well in Big Time Sensuality and More to Life Than This. I also liked One Day and Come to Me. I think it didn't work in the verses on Aeroplane. I think it was just a little like clashing a little bit with the instrumental. But that was like the only real spot that I would like notice that it was just not like really meshing. I think most of the songs were good. Some were like great, but that was the one spot that I didn't think was so good.
Okay.
For me, it was gonna be that where it worked well. Her voice with the instruments would be Big Time Sensuality and the Anchor Song, which again were my two favorites. The only one that I like didn't fall in love with, like mixed with her voice and the production, was Human Behavior. Like Victor said, it was just one of the ones that I don't know, interesting, the idea she was trying to make, but I don't know, it felt like almost a little too repetitive to me, but I could see why it was one of your guys' favorites, but it just, to me, it wasn't really up there.
Wait, Vic, stop.
That's facts. That's on Betty.
Yeah, that's on Shleemy right there.
Yeah, I think she does really well on every track in terms of her voice, but my favorite songs of hers where really it's just her and one other instrument. I think she does better as more of like a solo or a, what do they call it, concerto, where there's really just her voice and then an accompaniment. I think she excels at that, and she evokes a lot of emotion when you really have to focus in on her voice.
Yeah, like Someone in Love was great.
All right, so I guess we can transition into, I wanted to ask this question, I didn't write it down, so let's go back, rewind to 1993, and this album comes out and you hear it for the first time. Are you definitely looking forward to her in the future if she releases any more projects? What do you want out of her next project? Stuff like that.
So is this like a TikTok POV?
This album does not fit into the mainstream at all. Like
Right.
At least like in America.
I think it does.
The American mainstream was grunge in the 90s, right? This was like Nirvana, Pearl Jam were really big right now. I mean, those are like the leading bands in the world, right? And this is not grunge. So I mean, it's not even close to like the mainstream.
He's just trolling. Just go ahead, Evan.
See, that's a tough question because like I would listen to more of her stuff, I think. But I think the average person probably wouldn't, because it's not, she's trying to do something different than what everyone else is doing. She's trying to push the envelope a little bit. Who was that?
That was my mom.
Okay.
Yeah,
she disagrees with me. I don't know. I think I would listen to it more, but again, it's just it goes against the mainstream, like the grunge of the time. So I don't think most people would listen to more of her stuff.
For me, I think it depends on where my life would have led me at this point. How old would I be in this other version? I would be same age.
You'll be a freshman in preschool.
I think I might not even have reached me in K-Town, New York. It may not have even reached me. It's Icelandic house pop star. But if it did and I heard this, I think based on what I like now in our current day, I think I would hope that I would love it as much as I do now. So I would definitely.
How famous, Carlos, were the Sugar Cubes before she went to do her solo stuff? Were they famous in America or just like?
No, they were big in the UK. They didn't really hit the States.
She hit
Then I
like
maybe
number
wouldn't
12
listen
in
to
the
her
UK, I think, with this.
Her producer for almost all of her stuff is British.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I read that she moved to the UK when she was recording this, and like it got much better reviews in the UK than it did in the US. Like the US was kind of mixed, but the UK loved it. With that being said, I don't know if I would have been able to hear it when it came out. If I did, I think I would look forward to more of it.
All right, I think we should wrap it up with overall reviews?
I want to do like maybe like top 2 best and worst songs for each person.
Right.
All right, yeah, we can just
We do like the
this.
formal one.
Yeah.
Do we want to do like top 3 songs and 1 song we don't like, or
Yeah.
Charles, you go first. All right, I'll go first. My top 3 songs, not in order. I think I would have to say Venus as a Boy, Human Behavior, More to Life Than This. It's tough though. There's a lot of songs that I really like. It's hard to put just 3 into my top picks. One song I didn't like, maybe Aeroplane. I think it was just a little too long. I didn't think her voice fit as well as in the other songs with the instrumental.
Yeah, I think I already dove into this a little bit, but my 3 favorites were Big Time Sensuality, the Anchor song, and then Venus as a Boy, for sure. My least favorite was Human Behavior.
I'd say my 3 favorite, Venus as a Boy is up there, Anchor song, and then I think Crying, top 3. And then my least favorite was Human Behavior.
All right, my top 3 are gonna be Like Someone in Love, Anchor Song, and Crying. Yeah, those are my favorites. I think she has the best vocal performances on all 3 of those songs, which I really like. And then my least favorite has to be One Day. I think that song sounds super dated. The production is pretty boring, and her voice doesn't really do much to complement it either. All right, so I think we should do final score reviews and maybe final thoughts if you have any, Victor.
So, after many sleepless nights hitting my head against the wall thinking, what should I give this album?
3.8.
I'll have to give it a 9.2. I think that's solid for this. I think I loved every song. Absolutely amazing. Every song is amazing. I loved everyone. Maybe just not totally experimental enough to get the 10 part of my expectation. So that's maybe disappointed me a little bit. But besides that, at 9.2.
I hate doing these numbers. It feels so like
the numbers kind of
arbitrary.
suck.
It's just like posturing also. Like it just doesn't feel like, I never feel happy with the number. It's just like, I can't quantify my opinion. If I have to give it a number, I think I'm going to give it like an 8.
Fun part.
8 flat. I'll give it like an 8. I think the songs are all good. They're very catchy. I really enjoy listening to them. I think the drawbacks were that, they're really enjoyable to listen to, but they don't make me work so much as maybe other artists. Like I can listen to it once or twice and kind of get it, which is fine. I mean, she's not trying to make it super deep. I don't think the instrumentation is very surface level, and they're very catchy and enjoyable to listen to. That makes it not get a higher rating for me. I also wish it was a little bit more experimental. I think, like Victor said, would have made me a little more interested. I'm still getting used to her voice, so that might affect my rating. I mean, it's come a long way since I first listened, but I still have more to go. So I think I'll give it an 8.
I'm going to have to give it, I was going to say like an 8.8, crazy 8. While didn't like Human Behavior as much as the other songs, I really did like all of them. I mean, Human Behavior, I love the instrumental on it, like the synths and everything. I thought it was really cool. I do think that I will go back to this album. I will probably go find more of her stuff to listen to. It was cool. I think her voice is just so unique and out there that it's refreshing to listen to. Can't find anything really like it, which is what made this album so appealing to me, along with all the instrumentation. So yeah, it's 8.8 for me.
Okay, I'm actually gonna have to agree with Scott. I'm going pocket 8s. I'm doing 8.8.
Wow.
I'm raising. I'm raising you. I got pocket aces.
I checked Monster did.
Monster.
Yeah, Evan said.
Yo.
8.8.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to go 8.8. She does her, like we've all said, her voice is so unique and it's so distinct that you really know when you're listening to a Bjork track. And I think she really floats over this production well, and she fits and she finds these pockets even with a big variety of production choices. But I was feeling a little underwhelmed in terms of experimentation, as long as with you guys. So in the future, if I were to hear this album, she hadn't had anything released other than this, in the future I would want more experimentation. Do you guys want to do your fun facts and your album picture cover art?
Oh, I didn't have as much fun facts.
You can do now while we talk about the
cover. I'll include the cover this time. I took it out last time. Sorry for all our album cover art fanatics in the comments section.
Like Maria.
Evan, what are your thoughts
On the album cover? I liked it. I think she did a good choice. I think the picture of her really reflects what she was going for on the album. It's about her, and her hair is a little disheveled, and she's like maybe not wearing her best outfit, but it's just her, and she's doing what she wants to do. And it's about her just having fun and enjoying the music. I think that reflects the music really well.
I agree. She kind of just like does whatever she wants on this, and the focus is really her. And I love the color palette on this cover art. I love the gray tones, the gray hues. They're great. And her just sitting like this is, I don't really know what emotion she's trying to
She looks like
evoke with that.
trying to stifle her excitement or something. Like she's really happy, but she
Yeah,
can't
maybe.
like hold it in.
Yeah, but I
Yep.
think this is a great cover art.
So once again, I'm gonna have to be the Debbie Downer and say I do not like this cover art because she's basically riding off of Patti Smith's cover "Horses" on screen right here, which is one of the greatest album covers ever, and she is not this cover is not as good. It's like the same color palette, same sort of outfit, same sort of look into the camera, except Patti Smith isn't a little bitch like this. She's like this.
A little bitch like this.
So I'm not to say that this is not a good album cover. Back to you, Scott.
Okay. I was indifferent about it. It wasn't like anything special to me. I thought it was like, I agree with Carlos, like the mono, like the gray and the gray and black color tones were well done. It was a very well taken picture, but it was just like, I don't know, it wasn't anything like stand out or special. Fun fact.
Do you think it fits the music?
Yeah, I to an extent. Like, it wasn't exceptionally experimental as a photo, but it was well done, and I think that is well reflective in her music. It wasn't overly experimental, but it was definitely all well done. So, fun fact time. So, this album was recorded throughout eight studios, different studios. One of them in Mumbai, India. Everybody. Fun fact. Another one. One of them.
Everybody.
One of them was also.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Knew subdued, mature Jimi Hendrix. And I wonder if you can tell us. Everybody. Tell us. Everybody. Tell us. 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 Everybody. Tell us. Tell us. Everybody. Tell us. Tell us. Everybody.